Okay, wanted to clarify some things that we probably needed to before we start the fall semester. And you may be watching this video and it may not be fall semester, but anyway, there's a few things that you need to know beyond what you probably watched in the first two videos that either we didn't say well enough or maybe we um, said it incorrectly. So we're going to clarify a few things. Took a question off from last semester, but if you ever want to know instructor information, you can click right here. It tells you our working hours, who your primary instructor is of the course, and that kind of stuff. Again, that's just information. Any instructor can help you anytime. You don't have to necessarily talk to the particular instructor of record. I'm not going to go over all these because I want you to watch the videos. But there is one question that we goofed up in. And we have a tendency to be, if anything, a little lenient, but wanted to clarify this question, and that is question 8. If I miss more than what percent? I think the video says 20. Your syllabus says 10. So if you're missing a lot of time, and in a 15-week semester, guess what? You don't really have to miss but 1 week to be over the 10, and you're just a little less than the 20 at that point. So it doesn't take long to figure out just how quickly you can get behind, and you can be dropped per our policy. So I'll take either 10% on that question or 20, but hopefully most of you know that the real answer is now 10 that's in the syllabus, and just wanted to clarify that. We do have weekly contact interaction with you. It's just started that prior to making this video, the semester before I'm making this one, and it was kind of hit and miss. Some did and some didn't, and we kind of tied that to work ethic grade, and that didn't seem to be enough for everybody. So now weekly contact is going to be a something you have to respond to. In a 15-week, we're probably going to do it about 10 times, so I probably won't do it every single week. But however many times I do it, that'll be divided into 100. So let's say I do it 10 times, then each contact would count 10 points toward a grade of 100. That will be a test grade for you. So respond half the time, you'll get a 50. And that'll average in with all your other tests and all your other courses. And so I think that'll give it a little more weight and a little more reason to respond. So what that'll be, some weeks it'll be very simple. Some weeks it'll just be, tell me where you are in your courses and how's it going. Some other weeks we may have you make a video. We did that last semester. I saw some great videos, interaction with other students. I like that. So probably see that at least a couple of times. 1 week this semester, starting as you're hearing these words, you'll be sitting down with your instructor, and that'll be toward the end of the semester. And we're going to see how far along you are on your final course for the semester. The reason for that is we had a lot of people wait till the very last to get their labs done. And it was people oftentimes that were only in a single course. They kind of procrastinated and wanted to do 50 to 100% of their labs the last 2 weeks. That's not fair. It's not fair to instructors because it divides them up quite a bit helping those students, and it takes away from the ones that we're doing it regular. So the last 2 weeks of the semester, which is only 8 days, and we're not counting the last 2 days of the semester, are always reserved for finals only. So it'll be the last 8 days prior to the 2 we have for finals. You cannot do more than 25% of any labs for any course, and we're going to hold to that. So we're going to sit down with you, see where you are. If you've got more than 25% of the labs to get done, you better get them done that week, because the last 2 weeks we'll be putting in zeros for whatever is greater than 25%, and you won't get credit. Even if you do it, and that's just to trying to drive the behavior to let's get it done, let's not procrastinate, let's do it. Question 10 up here, talk about this. We have something in Blackboard called adaptive release, and we're using it to let you see or not see your courses based on the dates we give you. But there's also a course or two that we want to have some interaction with you prior to your moving forward. DC is one of those. DC has some things that are pretty much the basics of electronics, and we want to make sure you have a firm understanding of those. You can see I can see all 10 modules, but if I were to go in the student preview, what will happen is these 10 modules will disappear down to just a few. And the reason for that, well, okay, actually with this one it doesn't, it's in the master. But the reason for that is because we've got adaptive release set. And what we've done, I'll go to the master so you can see this real quick, is, let me find that master for you. I've got a bunch of courses in here, so my apologies. We want to make sure, we want to sit down and go through Ohm's Law with you. We want to go through a bunch of other things. And we want to make sure you see, and if you look, there's a note here. There are 10 modules in this course. In order to see all 10 modules, students must attend lectures as noted in certain modules. So what you'll see is the first 2 or 3, excuse me, and then until you interact with your instructor, prove your knowledge in certain ones, you can't advance any further than that. Now, this is where that checklist is so important. If you only see module 1, 2, and 3, and your checklist talks about module 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, they're there. We didn't just add those on a checklist. So for some reason you're not seeing all of the modules, it's likely adaptive release, but that checklist is a full list of everything that you need to know and do to complete that course successfully. So question 10, adaptive release may limit what I can see in Blackboard until I complete certain assignments. The answer to that is true. Number 11 talks about that checklist I just talked about. I should generally follow the order. Absolutely. Let me tell you how we kind of lay most of these courses out. We teach you a concept, we give you a lab. We bring you another concept, we give you a lab. So just imagine, let's kind of relate it to a doctor, for instance. A lot of people like to wait and do all their labs at the same time. So you've just studied how CPR works, and then you go into dissection, and you learn where the nervous system is, and then you learn other biological processes. And then at the end of the semester, you got to prove your CPR, you got to prove and dissect the frog, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, all that kind of jumbles after a little while, and you can't remember what concept is with what concept in it, and it just becomes a little jumbled and mixed up. So the reason we have the things laid out in Blackboard and on that checklist in a particular order is understand, do, understand, do, understand, do, understand, do. But if you go through all the theory and then procrastinate and try to do all your labs at the very last minute, you're not going to form a real strong knowledge there. So learn, do, learn, do. That's the whole idea. So yes, generally. Now, if you're at home on the weekend and you go through 2 or 3 different courses, and there are different sections of a course, and then want to come in and do a lab on 2 or 3 of them the next week, absolutely, that's fine. But if you go through 15 different sections and get finished and then want to come in here and do all 15 labs, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good, or us, because you're going to be so confused, you're not going to know which way is which. So it's designed to follow a set order, that checklist. When we know checklists aren't 100% perfect, and we're trying to get them all perfect, but they pretty much align with Banner. If you see an error, just ask us. But generally, you should be following that checklist. Number 12, we've already talked about that. The last 8 days, not counting the final, we will accept no more than 20%. I may have said 25% earlier, but it's 20% is the right question. So if you stayed with this video, you'll understand. 20% is the most we will accept of the labs of any course at that point in time. So should be um, moving on and getting things done. There could be an exception, obviously, if something very strange, but we'll take that one by one. But generally, 20%. So if we talked to you that week before and you've got 80% of your labs left, something happened beyond the norm. And unless you have a really good reason to explain why you have so many labs left, we're going to ask you to take some zeros for really just being behind. And we'll go from there. Weekly discussion activities will count for 1 test grade. We talked about that already, so don't answer the weekly discussion questions. Don't get involved. Expect a 0 is for one of your test grades. Here's another thing we've had happen. Incompletes are fine. They happen. We've had a couple of cases that were very much true. One example is you're a first-time student. This is not the one that's in your question here. And I'm not going to give you the answer, because I think after you hear my explanation, it'll speak for itself. But if you're a first-time student and you're taking a gargantuan load and you find that you bit off a little more than what you thought you could accomplish, that would be a reason for granting potentially an incomplete if you're here all the time. So if you're burning the midnight oil and just got a few more courses on your first semester than what you thought you ought to, or what you should have, you'll be able to adjust for the next semester, and I would likely be able to get you an incomplete granted. Well, let's just say you procrastinate and you think, well, there's 5 weeks left, I'll get it all done next week, and then the next week there's 4 weeks left, well, I'll still have 3 weeks after next week, and you just kind of keep postponing. I'm probably not going to give you an incomplete for that. If there's something tragic that happens in your family and you have to fly halfway around the world to attend or see a relative that may not make it or something like that, that's very unusual. That's one of those things that doesn't happen often. Or it shouldn't likely happen often. I hope it doesn't for anyone. Let's say you're having to take some unusual doctor's appointments because of a health issue. That's certainly something that typically doesn't happen every semester. That might be another reason, but not just the average thing, And we've had a little more than those than I would like. We've had some this semester that I'm speaking of for real good reasons, but we had some that I think probably could have been avoided if people had been a little more diligent. So anyway, we're not going to be as apt to issue those as often in the future. So do take precautions to take care of not getting into a state where you might have to finish a course up the next semester. So hopefully that answers some questions and gives you some things that you didn't know. And while I'm here, I'll address question 2. Dropping courses can lead to, yes, it can lead to financial aid issues. Obviously, if you drop a course, it's going to take you longer, because if you don't finish it that semester, you've got to come back and take it again. And it can lead to academic probation, and that's a long story. I won't go into it, but basically if you drop a course, and especially if you fail, it can be detrimental to your academic standing, which could keep you from getting financial aid. So they kind of relate to the financial aid. But question 2's answer is all of the above. I'll give you that one. A lot of people missed that after we issued this. So hopefully this gives you some information. And we're not trying to be mean. We're just trying to make sure that students are getting their work done in a timely manner. And, and again, the ones that have some issues, we certainly understand that. We'll certainly respond to that. We're just trying to minimize bad behavior, because that's something we see in the workforce. You talk to employers, that's number one complaint they got is bad behavior. Running out of time. I'm going to save this video, and hopefully this will answer all your questions and more. Thanks.